There comes a moment in your life when you realize something painful. You have been living too much of your life through the eyes of other people. You have been asking silently, will they approve of this? Will they understand me? Will they think I am foolish? What if they laugh? What if they leave? And little by little, without noticing, you began trading your own life for their opinions. You smiled when you wanted to speak. You stayed when you wanted to leave. You abandoned dreams because somebody called them unrealistic. And perhaps the strangest part is this. The people whose approval you have been chasing may not even be thinking about you nearly as much as you imagine. Think about that for a moment. How many decisions in your life were truly yours? Not decisions made from fear. Not decisions made because your family expected them. Not decisions made because your friends would approve. Not decisions made because you wanted to look successful, respectable, intelligent, attractive, or acceptable. I mean decisions that came from the quietest place inside you, the place that knows what you actually want, what you actually value, and what kind of person you are becoming. Because there is a difference between having a life and performing a life. And many people spend decades performing for an audience that was never really watching. You can feel it when you wake up in the morning and already begin measuring yourself against somebody else. Their career, their relationship, their house, their money, their appearance, their accomplishments, their confidence, their photographs, their carefully edited life. And suddenly your own progress feels small. You forget how far you have come because somebody else appears farther ahead. You forget your own path because you are staring at theirs. This is how comparison steals your peace. Not in one dramatic moment, but in thousands of tiny moments when you decide that somebody else's life is the standard by which your own life should be judged. And perhaps you have become so accustomed to this that you no longer recognize it as a problem. You call it being realistic. You call it being considerate. You call it caring about what people think. But sometimes what looks like consideration is actually fear wearing respectable clothing. You are not always being kind when you remain silent. Sometimes you are afraid of rejection. You are not always being patient when you postpone your dream. Sometimes you are afraid of criticism. You are not always being humble when you make yourself smaller. Sometimes you are terrified that if you become fully yourself, somebody will no longer love you. That is the hidden bargain many people make with the world. I will become who you want me to be, and in return, please don't reject me. But that bargain has a terrible price, because every time you betray something essential within yourself just to keep someone comfortable, you teach your mind that their approval is more valuable than your integrity. And eventually you don't even need them to criticize you anymore. You begin criticizing yourself before they ever get the chance. Their voice becomes your inner voice. Their expectations become your prison. Their judgment becomes the judge sitting inside your own mind. Listen carefully, because this is where your life can begin to change. You do not need everyone to understand you. You need to understand yourself. You do not need everyone to approve of your direction. You need enough courage to keep walking when the direction is right for you. You do not need everybody to celebrate your growth. Sometimes growth begins in silence, while the people around you still recognize the old version of you. And that can be lonely. It can be deeply lonely. But loneliness is not always evidence that you are on the wrong path. Sometimes it is evidence that you are finally leaving a path that was never yours. There will be people who preferred you when you were easier to control. They may not say it that way. They may call you different. They may say, you have changed. They may tell you that you are becoming selfish, arrogant, distant, unrealistic, or strange. And sometimes their concern will be genuine, so you must remain wise enough to listen. But do not make the small things. But do not make the mistake of believing that every uncomfortable reaction is a warning that you are doing something wrong. When you grow, the relationships built around your old identity may begin to feel unfamiliar. Not because you stopped caring, but because you stopped pretending. There is a particular kind of pain that comes with becoming yourself. It is the pain of disappointing people who had already decided who you were supposed to be. Maybe your family imagined one future for you. Maybe your friends became comfortable with your old habits. Maybe someone you loved only knew how to love the version of you that needed them. And now you are changing. You are becoming more disciplined, more independent, more selective, more peaceful. You are learning to say no. You are learning to walk away. You are learning that silence is sometimes more powerful than explanation. And suddenly people ask, what happened to you? What happened to you is that you finally started listening to yourself. But understand this. Living your own life does not mean becoming careless about everyone else's feelings. It does not mean becoming arrogant, cruel, rebellious, or selfish. It does not mean saying, I don't care what anyone thinks, while using that statement as an excuse to hurt people. Mature independence is different. It means you can listen without surrendering your judgment. You can accept advice without surrendering your identity. You can respect someone without obeying their expectations. You can love someone deeply without making their approval the foundation of your self-worth. That is emotional maturity. A child asks, do they like me? An insecure adult asks, what will they think of me? But a mature person eventually asks a different question. Am I proud of the way I am living? That question changes everything. Because once you begin measuring your life by your own values rather than by the reactions of other people, you become much harder to manipulate. Praise no longer intoxicates you. Criticism no longer destroys you. Rejection still hurts because you are human, but it no longer defines you. And that is freedom. Think about how much energy you spend trying to control perceptions. You rehearse conversations in your head. You wonder why someone didn't reply. You analyze the tone of a message. You imagine what people are saying behind your back. You replay an embarrassing moment from 5 years ago while everyone involved has probably forgotten it. You worry about how you look when you walk into a room. You worry about whether people think you are successful enough. You worry that your dream sounds foolish. You worry that if you fail publicly, people will remember. But here is the uncomfortable truth. Most people are too busy worrying about themselves to spend much time judging you. They are thinking about their own insecurities, their own bills, their own relationships, their own failures, their own appearance, their own future. The person you believe is watching you closely may be lying awake at night, wondering whether you are judging them. You are both standing on the same stage, both terrified of the audience, while the audience is mostly thinking about itself. So why give away so much of your life to an imaginary courtroom? Why allow people who are not paying your bills, carrying your burdens, building your character, or living your consequences to become the architects of your decisions? If someone else has to live your life for you, perhaps their opinion deserves greater weight. But they don't. You do. You will be the one who wakes up with your choices. You will be the one who carries the consequences. You will be the one who feels the years passing. You will be the one who knows what you sacrificed. And one day, when you look backward, you will not be haunted by every stranger who disliked you. You will be haunted by the moments when you knew what you wanted to do and did not do it because you were afraid of what somebody might say. That is the regret you must fear. Not being misunderstood, not being criticized, not being rejected, but becoming a stranger to yourself. There is something tragic about reaching an older age and realizing that you were excellent at being acceptable, but never learned how to be alive. You followed every expectation. You avoided every risk. You kept everyone comfortable. You never made the embarrassing attempt. You never started the business. You never wrote the book. You never traveled alone. You never told the truth. You never left the relationship that was slowly destroying you. You never became the person you kept imagining because you were too busy protecting yourself from the opinions of people who were going to have opinions regardless. People will talk when you succeed. They will talk when you fail. They will talk when you change. They will talk when you remain the same. So you might as well give them something worth talking about. Build the life. Take the risk. Learn the skill. Get stronger. Become wiser. Become kinder. Become disciplined. Become independent. And let your results introduce you. You do not need to announce every transformation. You do not need to explain every boundary. You do not need to defend every decision. Sometimes the most powerful response to misunderstanding is not another explanation. It is consistency. Let time reveal what words cannot. Let your character speak. Let your habits speak. Let your life speak. There is tremendous power in becoming comfortable with silence. The insecure person explains everything. The mature person understands that not everything requires an explanation. Someone misunderstands you. You do not panic. Someone doesn't approve. You do not collapse. Someone walks away. You grieve, but you do not chase them into the distance, begging them to validate your worth. Someone criticizes your path. You listen if there is wisdom in it, and you leave the rest behind. You begin to understand that rejection is information, not a verdict. Someone saying no does not mean you are worthless. Someone not choosing you does not mean you are unlovable. Someone failing to recognize your potential does not erase it. Someone leaving does not prove that you are destined to be abandoned. Sometimes people simply cannot accompany you into the next chapter of your life. And this is where many people become trapped emotionally. They confuse being needed with being loved. They confuse attachment with connection. They confuse attention with affection. They keep returning to people who make them feel uncertain because uncertainty creates obsession. They spend hours trying to decode silence, wondering what someone meant, wondering whether someone still cares, lies in the small things, wondering whether they should send another message. But your peace cannot depend on another person's emotional availability. You cannot build your identity around someone else's attention. And you certainly cannot spend your life auditioning for a role in somebody else's world. Love should add meaning to your life, not erase your identity. If someone loves you, they should not require you to disappear. If someone respects you, they should not demand that you betray yourself. If someone belongs in your life, you should not have to constantly perform for the privilege of keeping them there. Sometimes emotional distance is not punishment. Sometimes it is protection. Sometimes silence is not manipulation. Sometimes it is healing. Sometimes walking away is not giving up. Sometimes it is the first honest decision you have made in years. You have to learn the difference, and you learn it by becoming honest with yourself. Ask yourself quietly, what am I doing because I genuinely want to do it? And what am I doing because I am afraid of what will happen if I don't? That question can expose an entire life. Maybe you are staying in a career because people will respect you. Maybe you are pursuing money because you want to prove somebody wrong. Maybe you are trying to look successful because you secretly feel inadequate. Maybe you are chasing someone because being rejected makes you feel as though you have something to prove. Maybe you are constantly posting your achievements because silence would force you to confront how uncertain you feel inside. Maybe you are exhausted because you have spent years trying to become impressive instead of becoming fulfilled. There's a difference between building a life and building an image. An image needs an audience. A life needs roots. An image asks, how does this look? A life asks, what does this mean? An image needs applause. A life needs purpose. And once you understand that distinction, something inside you becomes quieter. You stop needing to announce your progress. You stop comparing your beginning to somebody else's middle. You stop treating every criticism as an emergency. You stop explaining why you are different You stop chasing people who are committed to misunderstanding you. You stop trying to win every argument. You stop needing the last word. And strangely, when you stop trying so hard to be seen, you begin to see yourself clearly. That is the beginning of self-respect. Self-respect is not loud. It does not need to prove itself. It is built in private. It is built when you keep a promise to yourself. It is built when you wake up and do the work, even though nobody is watching. It is built when you say no to something that would temporarily satisfy you, but permanently weaken you. It is built when you walk away from attention that costs you your dignity. It is built when you choose discipline over impulse and purpose over approval. Every private decision becomes a vote for the person you are becoming. And eventually, those votes become your character. You don't suddenly become confident one morning because you repeated a motivational sentence. Confidence is earned. It comes from evidence. You tell yourself you will work for 1 hour, and you do. You tell yourself you will stop chasing someone, and you do. You tell yourself you will save money, learn the skill, exercise, read, pray, build, create. And then you keep your word. Slowly, your mind begins to trust you. That is where real confidence comes from. Not from everyone liking you, from knowing you will not abandon yourself. And perhaps that is the greatest lesson of all. Do not abandon yourself just because someone else does. Do not abandon yourself because someone doesn't understand your dream. Do not abandon yourself because the results are taking longer than you expected. Do not abandon yourself because somebody else seems to be moving faster. Do not abandon yourself because you made mistakes. Do not abandon yourself because you are lonely. Do not abandon yourself because the old version of you is disappearing and the new version has not fully arrived. Growth has an awkward middle. There is a season where you are no longer who you were, but you are not yet who you want to become. That season can feel like confusion. You may feel disconnected from people you once understood. You may question your decisions. It's a kid. You may feel as though nobody sees what is happening inside you. Stay with yourself. Not every season is meant to be understood while you are living it. Sometimes you have to walk through the fog before you understand why the road became dark. And if you are healing from years of needing approval, be patient with yourself. You learned that behavior somewhere. Perhaps criticism taught you to be hyper-aware. Perhaps rejection taught you to overthink. Perhaps abandonment taught you to chase. Perhaps being compared taught you that your worth depended on performance. Perhaps you learned very early that love had to be earned, but you are allowed to unlearn that. You are allowed to become someone who does not need to earn the right to exist. You are allowed to make mistakes without turning them into an identity. You are allowed to say, this is not for me. You are allowed to change your mind. You are allowed to outgrow people. You are allowed to disappoint expectations that were never aligned with your purpose. And you are allowed to build a quiet life that looks unimpressive from the outside, but feels deeply meaningful from within. Because at the end of the day, your life is not a public performance. It is your life. There will always be someone richer, someone more attractive, someone younger, someone more successful, someone more intelligent, someone with more followers, someone with a bigger house, someone who achieved in 5 years what took you 10. If you measure your worth against an endless scoreboard, you will never win. So change the scoreboard. Measure yourself against who you were yesterday. Did you become more disciplined? Did you become more patient? Did you learn something? Did you keep your word? Did you become a little stronger? Did you treat someone with kindness? Did you make progress on something meaningful? Did you choose courage where you once chose fear? Those are victories. Small victories repeated long enough become extraordinary lives. And don't underestimate the power of ordinary days. The life you want will not usually be created in one dramatic moment. It will be created on ordinary Tuesday mornings, in quiet evenings, in boring routines, in decisions nobody applauds, in hours when you feel unmotivated, in moments when quitting would be easier. That is where your future is being built. Not in the opinions of other people, in your habits, in your standards, in your choices. So stop waiting for permission. Nobody is coming to hand you a certificate that says, you may now become yourself. You must give yourself permission. Permission to begin. Permission to fail. Permission to be misunderstood. Permission to be different. Permission to become disciplined. Permission to stop chasing. Permission to heal. Permission to walk away. Permission to start again. And perhaps most importantly, permission to live without constantly asking, what will they think? Let them think. Let them misunderstand. Let them gossip. Let them doubt. Let them underestimate you. You do not need to attend every courtroom where your name is mentioned. Some conversations do not deserve your energy. Some opinions do not deserve your attention. Some people do not deserve access to your inner world. Protect your attention because your attention is your life. Where your attention goes, your life follows. If you spend it on comparison, comparison becomes your life. If you spend it on resentment, resentment becomes your life. If you spend it watching everyone else, you will eventually wake up and realize you forgot to live. Look away from the crowd. Look at your road. There is work waiting for you. There is a person you can become. There are skills you can learn. There are relationships you can strengthen. Lies, the small things. There are mistakes you can correct. There are dreams that may still be alive beneath all the fear. And maybe that dream has been waiting for you longer than you realize. Maybe you buried it because someone laughed. Maybe you abandoned it because the first attempt failed. Maybe you told yourself you were being realistic when you were actually protecting yourself from disappointment. But ask yourself one more question. If nobody could judge you, what would you attempt? If nobody could laugh at you, what would you build? If nobody could reject you, who would you become? If nobody could see your failure, what would you finally try? The answers may reveal the life you have been postponing. Now, do not confuse this with waiting until you feel fearless. You will probably never feel completely fearless. Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is deciding that something matters more than fear. You can be nervous and still begin. You can be uncertain and still move. You can be afraid to still tell the truth. You can be heartbroken and still heal. You can be criticized and still continue. You can be alone and still become whole. That is strength. Real strength is not becoming so hard that nothing affects you. Real strength is becoming so grounded that everything does not control you. You can feel deeply without drowning. You can love deeply without losing yourself. You can care what people think without allowing their thoughts to dictate your life. You can remain compassionate without becoming available to everyone. You can be humble without becoming invisible. You can be confident without becoming arrogant. You can be independent without becoming cold. This is the balance mature people spend years learning, and there will be days when you forget. There will be days when someone's criticism gets under your skin. Days when comparison returns. Days when you wonder whether you are making a terrible mistake. Days when you want someone to tell you that you are doing the right thing. On those days, return to yourself. Return to your values. Return to the work. Return to the reasons you began. And remember that a temporary feeling does not have to become a permanent decision. You don't need to rebuild your entire life tonight. Just stop betraying yourself today. Tell the truth today. Keep one promise today. Do one difficult thing today. Take one step today. Then tomorrow, take another. That is how a life changes. Quietly, gradually, almost invisibly. Until one day, you look in the mirror and realize you are no longer asking the world who you should be. You know, you have become the person who decides. And perhaps the most beautiful part is that when you stop living for approval, you don't stop caring about people. You begin caring about them more honestly. You no longer need them to complete you. You can love without clinging. You can give without keeping score. You can listen without surrendering. You can disagree without hatred. You can walk away without revenge. You can wish someone well without inviting them back into your life. That is freedom without bitterness. And if someone leaves because you finally started respecting yourself, let them leave. If someone mocks your dream, let them talk. If someone doesn't understand your transformation, let time explain it. If someone says you have changed, perhaps you can simply smile and say, I hope so. Because the goal is not to remain the person everyone recognizes. The goal is to become the person you respect. Years from now, you will not remember every opinion. You will remember what you built. Things. You will remember who you loved. You will remember the risks you took. You will remember the moments you stood up after falling. You will remember the days you almost quit, but didn't. You will remember the moment you finally stopped begging to be accepted and began accepting yourself. And that moment can begin today. So go quietly, build quietly, heal quietly, learn quietly. Let your discipline become louder than your announcements. Let your character become louder than your explanations. Let your results become louder than your excuses. And when people finally notice the person you have become, you won't need their applause nearly as much as you once thought you did, because you will know something they cannot give you. You will know that you kept your promise to yourself. And there is a peace in that which no amount of approval can purchase. So stop asking, what will they think? Ask instead, what will I think of the life I lived? Ask, did I use my time well? Ask, did I become who I was capable of becoming? Ask, did I love honestly? Ask, did I have the courage to follow my own path? And when the noise becomes loud, remember this simple truth. Everybody gets an opinion, but not everybody gets a vote. Your life is your responsibility. Your choices are yours. Your time is yours. Lies in the small things. Your attention is yours. Your future is being shaped by what you do with them. So take them back. Take back your attention. Take back your standards. Take back your courage. Take back your mornings. Take back your dreams. Take back the parts of yourself you abandoned while trying to become acceptable to everyone else. You do not need to become someone extraordinary overnight. You simply need to stop becoming someone you are not. And perhaps tonight, when the world becomes quiet and you are alone with your thoughts, you will feel something different, not excitement, not certainty, something quieter, a small sense of relief, because somewhere deep inside, you will know that you don't have to perform anymore. You can breathe, you can choose, you can begin, you can become, and you can finally live your own life. Thank you for spending these moments with me. If these words reached a part of you that you don't usually talk about, stay close to this journey. Subscribe if you want more reflections on discipline, self-worth, emotional strength, human behavior, and the quiet transformation that happens when you finally decide to take responsibility for your life. And remember, the world does not need another version of somebody else. It needs the strongest, wisest, most honest version of you. So go live, not loudly, not for applause, not for approval. Live deliberately. Live courageously. Live according to the values you know are true. And when the noise of other people's opinions rises again, return to the quiet place inside yourself and remember, they have their life. You have yours. Now go build it.